The U.S., Israel, and Iran have agreed to a tentative 2-week ceasefire, but all sides have presented vastly different versions of the terms. AP reporters around the globe are taking a look at the ceasefire response in their regions and what it could mean for the future. In the U.S., the Trump administration is declaring victory.
Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield.
Here in Washington, President Donald Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth have been triumphant speaking about the ceasefire deal. Vice President J.D. Vance has been a bit more measured, calling it a fragile agreement, but it's still unclear what exactly the U.S. agreed to. There are large questions that remain about the free flow of traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump's claims that the U.S. will help Iran dig out its buried enriched uranium. There are already concerns on Capitol Hill that the U.S. does get that material out of Iran.
But Iran is claiming victory as well and says the deal allows it to begin charging ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz.
Hardline voices within Iran are insisting that they have seized victory in the war with Israel and the United States, and that's in part because they now control the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf through which about 20% of all natural gas and oil traded passes in peacetime, and they are planning to try to institute a toll booth system that would upend decades of the strait being open for international traffic. They're also insisting that even though Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed by Israel at the start of the war, they've now replaced him with a younger, more hardline version in his son, Moshtaba.
Israelis are breathing a sigh of relief over the ceasefire, but Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the deal does not cover fighting against Hezbollah.
At the outset of this war, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu talked about removing the threat of Iran's ballistic missiles. He talked of destroying its nuclear program and ending its support for hostile proxy groups. Netanyahu and President Trump even raised the idea of regime change in Iran. Well, none of these goals appears to have been achieved. And in the case of the proxies, Israel is now locked in heavy fighting with Hezbollah militants in southern Lebanon and looking at an open-ended military occupation of the southern part of that country.
Before a ceasefire was announced, Trump had threatened destruction in Iran if it did not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Asked again about Trump's threat to annihilate Iranian civilization, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt defended it as a, quote, very strong threat that led to results.